Hey everybody, welcome to Questions, Comments, and Concerns for Threshold Relics of the Homeland, episode 8. This was the episode where my stuff started to happen, and and that was a challenge. Everybody, questions, comments, concerns.
It was a really interesting session for sure.
Yeah.
Like a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff I didn't expect.
This is the calm before the climax. This is like the build up to the climax now.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit at the beginning of the session we were really exposition heavy with both like Steven and I's backstory stuff.
Wanted to get them out there.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of like now or never.
Yeah, it's kind of like now or never. I understand. I think it's because we have like a limited number of sessions to do this that's something that kind of suffers in these short sessions is like all of our big we have to have one big backstory element and it has to get out in 6 sessions or 9 sessions or however many sessions you have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the advocate that even in like a longer or more casual campaign, it's better to get that stuff out earlier rather than, I know it's like fun to have like a secret mysterious backstory from all the other players and stuff, but it really doesn't exist until it hits the table.
Right.
The sooner that it gets out.
What I'm saying is that sometimes like things take time or you need to like foster some things, and I think that it just has to be that process is sped up. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. It's just like that process is so sped up in these shorter sessions.
That is something that we suffer from because of our format, absolutely.
I don't necessarily. I mean, it's sort of like I think we're partly holding ourselves to too high of a standard.
Well, maybe
in
there's
some
that
ways.
too.
Like, we are telling a story, but we're also playing an RPG. You know, like if this was pacing for a TV show, I would go, yeah, we probably shouldn't have monologued for the first half about our backstories. But for an RPG, it's sort of like, you know, that's part of the gameplay, and it was fun for me to sit in that sort of feeling of whether or not Ferrex is really mad at Lunem, whether or not he's going to like attack her or whether he's not. So it was fun for me to like get that information out in that way. But I also, it is kind of hard when, you know, we do only have 9 episodes. It's like you have to set the stuff up if you want to pay it off. Otherwise, it's sort of not as satisfying if it is.
I thought it was really important information.
Yeah.
When it came out. So it had to happen.
I'm just saying, like, it was just a lot of...
It's sort of a reverse. So if you go back and watch it, you'll be like, okay, that's maybe why they made those decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, early on, yeah.
Totally.
I like that a lot of our like backstory has come on so late in the campaign.
Yeah, it's kind of
all these like things interesting. Yeah, like you said, where people could go back and be like, oh, that's probably why they did that, or why they said that. Like,
I like that. The way it turned out, where Vox was the only one that wanted to stop this thing. He was the only one that sensed the danger, so to speak, and turned out to be, and we all turned out to be wrong. But at the same time, I as a player, I was. Garrow's not the type that would act on that, but there also I wasn't feeling a lot of motivation.
Yeah, I've been struggling like all hell to motivate your characters in this campaign. So you're all so dispassionate. I was trying to I know I didn't have a lot of time, but I was really trying to build...
If I can ask, what were you today trying to motivate us to? Because I know that I sort of thought that you were trying to motivate us to leave the room.
That was one point, but... Yeah, then I got kind of hung up on that, unfortunately.
Honestly, I feel like you got a lot of curveballs thrown at you.
Maybe.
With this session. And
Sorry.
I know that's like part of it, but... So, I actually I have a bit of a gripe about your handling of that. Because to me, I felt like there, like, character-wise, I don't see why... Like, you were the only one.
I can understand it character-wise. I would have appreciated if you could have thrown me a bone, but I understand.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm the only terror totem, and he obviously, the second he heard it, he was like, whoa, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I heard what? I'm confused.
Why would you come to the tower all armed with weapons? And even, so you killed this person who's been sitting
they're
out.
always armed.
They didn't know what they were going to walk into. You made a lot of assumptions, but I understand why you would have, so.
It felt, I don't know. it felt very meta to me at times, where it was like you were assuming that there was going to be. Like,
I don't know about that. I honestly, I don't know.
I heard unexpected combat, and I immediately moved to a defensive position. That's what I did.
That I understood, but then when we saw who it was,
the guy drew my map to begin with, so I already don't like him.
Right.
He hired you. Like, that's your job.
Like, I feel like you guys don't like Pedro Luna. Like, yes, it turned out he's the bad guy. But I feel like you guys didn't like him for mostly meta reasons to begin with.
I didn't like
agree.
him because of the way that he was. I don't like him because of the way that he was portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way that you characterized him,
Yeah.
it definitely felt like. And again, I think I remember making. I'd have to go back to watch, but I think I made an insight check.
Yeah.
I think that Ferrex, even within game, I said like, can I make an insight check just to see if I don't trust him as much as I don't trust him?
Yeah.
And I think I got a positive
Yeah,
result.
you did, and I kind of goofed on that too, for sure.
It's sort of it's sort of a thing where it's sort of like if we have to like the villain that we're trying to hide.
Yeah.
And so in this case, when he, especially because Toss's father too is a
Yeah.
guy who would societally be a good guy, but as sort of outsidery protagonists, like I don't like. We didn't have a reason to trust these guys because so far all they've been is sort of a little bit sneaky and authoritarian.
Yeah, maybe this is a symptom of a lot of the stuff was stuff that I came up with before I really knew who your characters were. And maybe this was I could have been more adaptive in this because you guys did end up kind of more, well, I mean, some of you more outsidery than I thought you would be. So
I don't know. I liked Petra Lunem even just like as a character, and while as a player I had like a hunch that somebody higher up would be pulling some strings, you know, dabbling in something dark. I felt like character-wise we were really never given. Like,
I don't know. I can understand the
You're right. Character-wise, I'm with you. I didn't ever feel a time where it was like there's no reason not to trust him. He's high up. He's in the Church of Lunan, which is like I understand they're like this budding new church essentially. Like as a member of the Church of Victoria, it is my job to support this other church, but also like we have this relationship now. Like that since Victoria has been around for so long, part of I feel the Church of Victoria's responsibility is to help Lunam's church build, but there's still some wariness because it is like two gods, and it's like how do you balance that? So in all of my decisions, like I have to help this guy. Pamela doesn't necessarily think he's a good guy. I'm getting serious creeper vibes from
totally,
him.
Yeah.
But as Tiff, it's like there's no reason for me not to trust him and to not follow along and to help him. And like, I understand you're trying to talk to your god. I have no intention of listening into your conversation. I'm just here to facilitate and just to like watch to make sure like that you're not scheming to kill Victoria. You know, like it's that kind of thing. In my mind, that's kind of the whole stance that I took, and it's why I didn't want to leave the room. Is like it's not so much like I don't trust him. It's just I'm making
you were looking after your own interests.
Yes, I'm looking to make sure the Church of Victoria is represented.
Yeah.
I do feel like this is an interesting case study the exam. Well, particularly in having PCs that are more invested in an organization than they are in
party, but like also in each other and in
right, because I mean
in what's going on.
Gar cares about the Tethesifers Union, and Vox sort of is invested. Sort of invested in everyone in too much. Tip has a Church of Victoria, Church of Lunam, and Ferrex is just sort of invested in himself. And so we're not going to make the choices. Like, I'm finding it very hard to motivate Ferrex because he doesn't really care much for Lunam. He's probably going to go help his friends out. I'm sort of concerned about which side then to enter this fight on, because I like Toss, but I hate Aurelius.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like Toss, but I hate Aurelius, and so it's we all have this sort of motivation, but it's the motivation to serve a cause, 5 disparate causes that are for the most part not involved. Lunem is really the only church with a heavy involvement in this campaign. Perhaps Victoria earlier on in our first couple of sessions.
Yeah.
Which sort of means that we should fall on the side of Lunem, but it's also, and perhaps you had a plan for this. I think it's a big risk to have a player so tightly bound to who ends up being the bad guys.
Yeah.
Right there at the end. That's we'll see how it pays off next episode.
Yeah,
that's a big risk.
I just watched the Page Lunem murder
Yeah.
the daughter of Lunem. So now it's like all bets are off.
Right.
But up until that point, it's like had he not like whatever was going on, I would have watched Fox die.
Yeah.
And that was that was it. The structure is we had two opposing factions within our party. It was people who if we were all of one mind either way, if we were all of one mind of let's fuck up Church of Lunem or let's let them do their thing.
I wasn't prepared for you guys to sort of factionalize like that. I thought
that's really hard to see, to be honest. But I also think what happened is incredibly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite D&D sessions that just happened.
Really?
Because of how crazy and indifferent
it was weird.
It was
really not a typical D&D where all the parties against the baddie. It
was
we were sitting watching one of our party members get
as opposed to let's
get
it, guys.
Yeah, that was really weird.
And
I was really kind of sick of that, so it was kind of nice to
we all just kind of watched Vox get beat up.
I never.
It's if you just stop. Well, if you just stop, it wouldn't be an issue. It's not oh my gosh, I care so much about this party member, I have to go save them.
I never like PvP sessions because
anytime
there's two players that are in conflict in a way that it doesn't get resolved briefly, if no one decides to budge, we get into this situation where really the only way to get to it is drawn out combat, which is why a lot of rule systems actually have a thing where after a couple of rounds, the players both have to together decide what's going to happen. Someone has to submit, or we have to let the dice decide, which is where we are sort of. Which is where we ended the session
right now, though. We none of us are attacking.
Right, but it wasn't PvP.
No.
But it was
But it was player versus with conflict against another player. It wasn't PvP, but it was PvP in the sense where you guys were saying you were telling everyone leave, and they were saying no, stay. Right? Because it's not just a Vox being unwilling to go against or being unwilling to leave the room, but it's also a Toss being unwilling to side with Vox in that moment. It's a two-way street, because you could have turned and been no, Vox, my new friend is right. Dad, you've been nothing but sneaky to me. You know what I mean? The scene could have totally gone that way too. It could have gone either direction.
Yeah.
But from both of you guys sticking to your characters rather than having them change, we got to this arc. One person has to come to the other side, or we're going to have to let the dice decide which way the situation goes down.
Right. I guess what I'm saying.
PvP.
I guess I feel like you're saying that there was that's an issue, and I feel like the way that the session ended, that's not an issue.
Yeah, well, in this particular case, it's going to be fine because we have some pretty clear direction now.
Yeah.
Right. I get what you're saying, as a case study type thing, but for this particular scenario, I don't see that there's much of a problem now.
No. The problem I think is solved because we're all kind of on the same team now.
Right.
But were it not if we didn't see Patrolunem kill Little Lux. We would we would start the next session with a combat where everyone eventually has to pick a side, and then we figure out how to pick up the pieces from there. Luckily this is happening in session 8 rather than session 2.
I guess my struggle is that I didn't see a lot of motivation either way. I didn't see why Vox had such motivation to be so withholding.
Part of it is
but I don't have any motivation, even though my dad can be a jerk sometimes and everything. I have no motivation to just instantly turn because some hippie elf wants to protect a kid.
A hippie elf you've worked with twice.
And sometimes that's the trick is either finding that no matter how thin it is and sort of turn it into a moment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like no matter what, at some point somebody was going to have to do something kind of thin.
Mm-hmm.
And
and maybe that was the situation too. So that was kind of a tough one, and I wasn't really sure how you guys were going to react, and then even then, it was different than all the situations I thought out, which is role-playing games.
Just before the session, you said, I'm pretty sure I know how everyone's gonna. Do you remember when we said that?
Yeah, I do, and I knew that wasn't going to be the case. We talked about that too. But
no matter, it's always gonna be like someone's gonna throw a wrench at you, and you're gonna be like, oh God.
I thought it was really interesting and really fun. Like I liked everything about that episode.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really worried about next episode. Not so much the combat part, but after combat.
I think it depends on what happens during combat and what we don't, we may not have seen his final form.
His final
Not even his final form.
And also what I'm thinking is because Lux said that the moon, that little like white orb is only there because of her.
Mm-hmm.
So now she's gone.
Right.
So
yeah, I want to know what happens to the orbs. Shit's going down.
I got this.
Ranch timeline.
No, we're gonna solve it.
Puzzle box.
We're gonna but puzzle box. The puzzle box is gonna open up and it's gonna eat the. Yeah, I got this. Don't worry. We'll make it work.
I was glad you pulled that out.
No, that was good. There's so many little moments that happen where it's like, wow, you guys gonna have to fill out paperwork, and then Ferrex realizing, oh, I got this orb. This fits perfectly over that thing. Like
that's why I was like,
all these little
I gotta talk to Gary because I need.
I will say
orbs.
this was kind of a weird, uncomfortable session for role playing. I think a little bit, but if I were to write this out as like a chapter of a book, it would actually be a really interesting chapter.
Yeah,
there were a lot of good beats. There were a lot of it was interesting conflict.
I would always much rather have. Maybe not always to this like extremity, but I would always rather have some sort of conflict as opposed to just being like the gung ho party of merry
I wish
adventurers.
the conflict was even stronger too.
Yeah,
like I think maybe the only criticism from me would be that Vox was very passionate in one direction, but a lot of us weren't passionate in the other.
Yeah. It was sort
of. So there wasn't like a clash. It was kind of like we were sitting around like, no, he's gonna die.
It was sort of like
dead.
Yeah, it was sort of like everyone was going, "Come on," rather than being like, "No, I'm gonna force you."
Right.
It's sort of like had we brought it to. You're right. Had we brought it to that. There's an improv term for this, which is sometimes those conflicts can happen in improv where you're just like smashing heads. You either have to do one of two things: you either fall in love or pull out a gun.
Oh yeah, right.
And that's what we need to do in this moment was either fall in love or pull out a gun.
Well, okay.
Fox, I love you.
Well, here's the thing though. It's like I thought I was like I could just pull out my sword and force him to do it, but then I was like, but that's PvP, and I really don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
Like, and that was kind of my thing. It's like as a player, I was so frustrated with you, Zach. Like, I'm still actually really frustrated with you because I was just like, come on, we gotta move on. Like, come on, just let it go. And like, you just wouldn't let it go, and I could see like
it's interesting because if you broke the rule of no PvP, it would have, you know what I mean? It's like an instance in which breaking the rules would maybe have been.
But I don't feel like it would have because I felt like Zach, I felt like you were so strongly opposed to this that's like even if I try to do something, nothing will happen.
I think what could have really helped is, to me, the biggest problem was that I was like, okay, clearly that's my dad and Moon Knight's people that were. At the moment, are on our side. They're authorities. They hired us. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And
there's
then,
like trust.
And then it's like, okay, let's go talk to them. And you made me walk through thorns. Like, to me, that was just like, and then nobody, and like, I mean, Ferrex eventually jumped through the thorns, but everyone else was just like,
we had some bonding.
Cool, keep the, we did.
Well, I wasn't like cool, keep the thorns. I wanted them gone, but it was just like, can you move them? He's like, no, I'm just gonna be stubborn.
Well, I understand as a player, once you put the thorns.
Yeah,
down,
mechanically,
you just I fully understand. It's just really frustrating.
But there was
right, but like I put my I pointed my halberd at him and was like move the thorns.
Yeah, I think we had a situation like this happening between Rasper and Christine, where you guys like both had weapons at each other, and it was sort of like, okay, we've reached the boiling point of this scenario. Rather than do combat, why don't you two as players discuss what's going to happen?
When was that?
I think it was season 2, Sands of Syraxis.
Right,
that was the whole bliss thing and the little
something around that.
Yeah, and it was we got to the boiling point of the argument, and now it's like, let's meta as players discuss how the scene is gonna play out.
Right.
I think that would have been nice in that situation.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
either that or I wish
was so
like
long
other people
ago.
had
Yeah.
just
I didn't
like,
think of it till
yeah.
just now.
I didn't think of it just now, and most of this stuff was sort of mid-session, so
Yeah.
it's harder to like stop and be like, all right, you two figure it out of character. Whereas like the Christine and Rasper thing, we had like a session end, and then they got.
No, I think we did it mid-session.
Did we actually do it mid-session?
I think,
Oh man,
if I remember correctly.
man,
but
I wish I had remembered
And
that.
in that case,
Yeah.
Josh was just like, yeah, I mean, Rasper's just gonna pass out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was
this
something
case.
easy and.
Yeah,
I do remember that now.
Because Josh, as a player, was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not super passionate about
I don't
this." Yeah, and so it was like great. So we can,
Huh.
The conflict is
It was
we
entirely character
reached
based.
its peak,
Right.
and then we resolved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Yeah.
Zach, you've been actually really quiet through all of this. Like,
I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean,
don't know.
I made the choice that I thought my character would make, and it was people showed up armed at a tower that's like everyone's really peaceful, no one's really being.
We showed up on.
we showed up.
Con-
Well, wait.
Well, we showed up,
Homeland?
but I didn't. I showed up as a dog trying to find my sister, and then everyone's been like, "Oh, that's weird. There's a dog here. Should we let him in?" Yeah, I mean, he's not going to do anything. I was like, "Sweet." Make it up to the tower. The old guy's there. You guys talk to him. I was like, "All right. Obviously, he's not going to do anything." I see my sister in that room. I'm going to go see her.
That's very true because you did have a very different entrance than we did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I mean, to like deny the fact that we showed up essentially the same way.
I
I know you didn't, but,
But
like
it
Vox wouldn't even like
pulls
consider
back
that.
to the point of where like you guys you're organized, you're part of organizations, and then all of a sudden you have this druid in the group who's just like, I'm just a guide. That's my job, and my family's in that tower, and the family could be dead.
How did you feel out of character?
For
about just about the situation? Just because I totally agree with
I
Vox's
feel
logic.
bad. I feel bad that it just got stretched out to the point where it was like no one was really having fun. I felt.
Oh,
I
I
was
was
having
having.
I never stopped having fun.
Yeah, I
really.
thought it was
Yeah.
really fun.
I felt like I was the only person who was like, well, okay, this is really weird. There's people with weapons behind this door that weren't there before.
They're not strangers though.
Yeah,
But-
that's my big
I
problem.
imagine this
But
as
we
like,
heard it. We didn't see it.
No,
There's a
you
difference.
heard it. You and like one
But
other
that's
person
my
heard it.
point. Is I didn't see it. I heard it. So my
But I
immediate
didn't hear
response
it.
is
Nobody
to go
told me
to a
that, and then I see
defensive
my
position.
dad. So
yeah. Once we saw that they were
Yeah.
like, it was almost like I pictured us as like a little military squad or whatever, and suddenly like the Major General is coming in, and it's like, yes sir, I'll do whatever you want. I'm like,
That's kind of like.
he's like the big boss.
Ferrex was like
And
hesitant.
And maybe we had like maybe you were like a specialist or like the outsider of the group, but it was still like this is our
job.
This is our chain of command guy, and at least for
Yeah.
Gara,
Well, Maybe we'll have to talk some more
Yeah.
off camera too. But
I do have one last thing I want to bring up that's not in relation to that, but about
Okay.
the session. We kind of forgot about Volpina.
Yeah.
I know.
I brought her up a couple times.
I've got her. I've got her
Okay.
here now.
Okay.
Don't worry. She's
Yeah,
she's not forgotten.
She and Lux switched
She's
places.
she's not forgotten. Just nobody's been paying attention to her for a little bit.
Okay.
She's like stone.
she melded.
Oh, so she has been making moves up here.
Okay.
Because I was just
I
gonna say
wasn't
I
accusing you of forgetting. I was
No.
just saying like I even forgot
Yeah.
that she was like.
I almost
this.
like there were points where I kind of forgot about her too, but
have
I've
nothing
been
but
keeping her in
sympathy
mind.
for you. Oh, I was gonna say 2:20 today marks the first time that Kevin was forced to have a conversation with himself.
Yeah, yeah, that was fun.
That was good though.
yeah, I think that covered
Between
it
two
very good.
characters that you know have to have a conversation, but it's not information you have
Yeah,
here, so you're like,
pretty much.
So I was feeling for you so much.
Yeah,
now.
I was
'Cause
planning on that conversation happening off camera pretty
right,
much.
Right, and so I was like,
Just half the reason, like
That's why I left the room.
behind the curtain. I was like, I was trying to get everybody out of the room so I didn't have to role play that.
Right, and I
stupid
could
thing.
totally see that, and
But,
I'm like, I almost wanted to say, guys, he just doesn't want to talk to himself for 20 minutes.
Yeah. But I can understand everything, all the concerns. We'll have a conversation about that, and we'll be back next week for our last episode.
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
afterwards.
Oh yes, and I will be back tomorrow for afterwards. I know that. and I'll have some things to say, and it'll be fun. And they're not going to be mean things. I'm mostly going to talk mechanics and stuff, actually, and sort of behind the curtain. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. This was a longer questions, comments, and concerns. And some of this might bleed over into the beginning of our next session, depending on what we talk about. But in any case, thank you for watching. Check out all of our stuff and Twitters and Rasper Hawkborn and the Ranch timeline and all of that stuff. See you next time. See you tomorrow for Afterwards. Peace.